Hey guys, as requested by some of you, I'm going to review the video called 6 Months of Beef, Shocking Carnivore Diet Results.
It's a special day.
That does look yummy, the fat is also yellow.
Today is 6 months to the day since I renounced my plant-munching past in favor of eating all the meat I could get my hands on.
Yeah, so this guy used to be a vegan. This is a video from 2 years ago. As you can see, he looked way different, very malnourished.
This is what happened.
Yeah, he looks horrible, but to be fair, this was after a water fast, and after starvation, which is what fasting is, you could of course look like this. Yeah, way better, way more normal, looks way more natural, great. Also, his skin tone changed incredibly much. That could be due to him going into the sun, but vegans also go into the sun a lot, they just simply don't tan. He looks good.
And I achieved this monstrous transformation, eating virtually nothing but beef for the last 6 months. And I have never been so satisfied in my entire life. Okay, but fancy videos aside, let's get to it, all right? I've been eating a carnivore diet for 6 months now.
Even though beef compared to actual wild animals isn't as healthy as nutritious, still of course it is one of the best things which we slaves have available in this society, built by people who eat the actual great food, but that's just the hierarchy. Unfortunately, what can you do? Anyway, that's what we are allowed to eat, and it's great that he, of course, figured out that you're supposed to eat mostly meat, I would say. Humans in nature still eat some plants. You would eat some wild fruit now and then. Yeah, maybe only seasonally, depending on where you live. Maybe you would go many months without eating any plants at all. Maybe many years. It can happen. And you would, of course, not cook your meat, but I don't expect him to eat raw meat, obviously. A cooked carnivore diet is the closest mainstream diet we have to what we eat in nature.
And it's entirely revolutionized my life. I have, well, you saw the video. I went from a very bad state to feeling better than I have in years. And in this video,
he really looks like a typical raw vegan.
As you can probably guess, I am very in favor. I think this is a biologically appropriate diet for humans. Do I think you're going to go to hell if you eat a vegetable? Absolutely not. Do I believe that humans are hypercarnivores and that if we get most of our calories from meat-based sources, we will be healthiest? Yes, I do believe it. However, you're welcome to disagree, but nonetheless, this is my experience.
It's interesting how his mind has possibly changed. If he was like any of the vegans which we know, who will say that you will go basically to hell if you eat any meat, it's not allowed, whereas no meat eaters will say that you are not allowed to eat any vegetables. The people on the carnivore diet are a little bit more religious, and they will say that you're really not allowed to eat vegetables sometimes, but it's definitely not as religious as veganism.
So, where to start? I think it makes sense to start at the beginning and to provide you guys with a little bit of context as to what brought me to that emaciated figure that you guys saw at the start of this video. So I've recorded videos about the whole degeneration of my body and what led me to that rock bottom. I'll link something above, but the brief version is this. For the better part of the last decade, I was really unwell. I suffered with really bad gut inflammation disease. I basically had diarrhea. I had diarrhea every day for about 6 years. Then when my whole body collapsed, I tried plant-based styles of eating to hopefully give my body, I don't know, I thought that would heal me.
That's one of the worst things you can do because the plants that we eat nowadays are man-made. They don't exist in nature. They have a lot of naturally occurring anti-nutrients, other toxins, pesticides nowadays which are artificial but are part of vegetables and most fruits, unfortunately. They have fiber which is indigestible. And that will cause a lot of gut discomfort, obviously, naturally.
And in that, I did like a raw till 4 for a couple years with a few fully raw months, like just eating papayas and bananas. And then I tried a fully raw vegan for about 6 months. None of this stuff worked. These things only work in the way that they remove problematic foods from your diet. I'm going to make a video in the near future about why I believe veganism failed me so bad, because some people do seem to do all right on it. People are always like, no matter how you do a vegan diet, people go, oh, you didn't do it right. So I'm going to address that in a future video. But for now, let's just say I was in a bad place 6 months ago.
The only people who say that you didn't do veganism right are the ones who haven't been vegan for long enough. They don't understand that plants don't have over 15 nutrients, yet they don't feel as malnourished as they will in a few months or possibly years.
Just before I started this carnivore diet, the one thing I did that was incredible, which also led me to be so skinny, was I did a 22-day water fast. And that was by far the best thing I've ever done for my health. It's incredible, the chance for your body to just rest, cell autophagy, the release of stem cells. You just literally lay there and your...
Autophagy is when you literally eat yourself. It's the worst thing that can happen to a human being. You should never enter autophagy. It means that you completely failed naturally. It means that you don't have any food, which means that you are a bad hunter, which is why nature punishes you. That's why he looked so horrible. That's literally the punishment from nature for being a loser, essentially. There's nothing good about it whatsoever. Fasting, aka starving, is the worst thing that you can do. There's nothing healthy about it. Yes, it gave him a rest because he was eating raw plants before that. It felt really good because he didn't have the gut discomfort anymore. He had IBS or whatever. He had inflamed bowels. Of course, he felt better, but if you would eat raw meat, you would feel even better.
I had been malnourished for nearly a decade, a lot of it from GI issues, and then following that plus plant-based malnutrition, and then a water fast, and then I'm finally starting eating a nutrient-dense diet, and that's kind of how I came into this. So when I started, I just ate everything. A lot of beef, butter, eggs, some fish, some oysters. I know it's not really carnivore, but I even drank a bit of milk for the first few weeks. No, first like 2 weeks. But then very quickly, it was just my preference. I just started eating beef. I literally just ate beef all day, every day. And my diet, in terms of how much I ate, changed so much in the course of that time. In the first few months, I was eating upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 calories every day. I would sit down and eat 3-4 pounds of ground beef, and then with, some of it cooked with lard, and then I would literally go to the fridge and eat spoonfuls of lard. My body wanted fat, animal fat, so much. I'd been depriving myself of these nutrients
That is incredibly typical because for one thing, he was obviously very starved, over the top malnourished, but raw vegans especially, but vegans in general, crave animal fat like crazy. That's why you see all of those meat imitations, vegan cream, vegan cheese. It's all a craving for animal fat. And the reason we crave animal fat is because we are made out of animal fat.
I want to first go over my blood work, all right? The hard, black and white, measurable changes in my physiology. In that first test, my cholesterol was like hella low, scary low. So look, if I bring up the numbers, my total cholesterol has gone from 30 milligrams per deciliter to 148. Wow. LDL.
That is fucking crazy. That's really abnormal.
Yeah, that brings me to testosterone. So I had this checked twice in the last couple years, both 2 years ago and a year and a half ago. And in both cases, it was low. It was at 304 nanograms per deciliter and then dropped down to 262. Right? These are low. I think the reference range says something like 300 to 1,000. Is that right? And I think that's generous. Like as a man, testosterone is almost your metric of being a man to some degree. It gives you, it deepens your voice. It allows your muscles to adapt and hypertrophy more easily. Like testosterone is important. Okay. And now my level is sitting at 624. And remember, this was 2 months ago as well. So I would extrapolate that to say it's probably well over 700 at this point. It over doubled compared to where it was sitting in the last few years. All right, now I did get a few more tests done.
Testosterone fluctuates a lot, but he's increased overall, obviously, and that's because testosterone is made out of cholesterol. I'm really glad to see that the guy is doing so much better now. The only weird thing was that he was still promoting fasting, which is starvation. You really can't feel much worse as a human being than when you're fasting, and that's because you are consuming yourself. You feel like death, and that's because you are heading towards death. When a baby cries, it's usually when they don't have milk to drink. Their body tells them that they need to consume food. This feeling of dying is so incredibly horrible for a human being, whether you're a baby or an adult. It's only adults that get brainwashed to believe that I feel horrible, I'm starving, I'm fasting, some doctor told me that that's good for me, and I will try to ignore it. I will try to ignore that I feel so horrible. I really want to stop this. I want to eat. And I will just push through it. A natural human being always eats whenever you want to eat. And that's because you follow your senses. You listen to what your body wants. And when you're fasting, you don't listen to what your body wants. It's very similar to veganism. My point is that he still suffers from mental issues. But I hope that the more meat he consumes, the more he will realize that fasting, veganism, raw veganism, all of it is starvation because plants don't have over 50 nutrients and that you shouldn't do any of that. Thanks for watching.